Two, 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 two. Is this thing on? Two, two, two. Cool. Hi everyone, this is Bremster, and today I'm coming to you with a puzzle that has been requested. This is Stage Directions, a puzzle of mine that I set for my puzzle hunt in January. And a few people have asked me if I would do a solution video for that puzzle. Both people who had solved it and wanted to know what my intended path was, and people who tried the puzzle hunt and failed, wanted to know how they could solve the puzzle. So this is now me eventually meeting that request and doing a solution video for Stage Directions. The riddle that started this off I've already done, is an intro to another video, so I will throw a link above to the video where I explain the riddle, but this will just be for the puzzle. On the topic of puzzle hunts, if you've been watching to the end of my previous few videos, you'll notice there is a trailer that has dropped for my next puzzle hunt, which will be coming out on the 13th of February. This is a puzzle hunt that is not just by me. There are quite a few setters involved in this one, and this will include more puzzles, but the difficulties of the puzzles is designed to be, most of them are easier than this one, and the hardest puzzle is, I think, about as hard as this one. And as I have tried to do all along, even if you don't complete the hunt, there will be ways of submitting answers to the puzzles that you have completed, and still be in the running for the prize that I have this month. But if you do manage to complete the entire hunt, there will be a special solution code that you'll be able to submit. And we are going through final testing at the moment. All of the puzzles have been completed, so we've just got to put it all together. So hopefully you're all looking forward to that one. But on to this one, Stage Directions by Bremster. That's me. There are 3 rules in effect. So in every box, in every row, and in every column, the digits 1 to 9 must be placed without repetition. We have killer cages. Digits placed in cages must sum to the number in the top left corner of the cage where given. There is a cage that has no given digit, no given number. And arrow rules. Digits placed on arrows must sum to the value, you add them up, and the sum gets put into that arrow circle. That's all we've got to go on. And with that, this is solvable. I just need to remember how. I'm going to do this a bit as a setter video as well as a solve video and explain some of the ideas I put in. I do not have a definite solve path for most of it, but I do know where I got stuck while setting it, and I was going to try and do some explanations. So let's give this a shot. So the first thing I put into the grid was basically the left-hand side of the grid minus some of the stuff. So it was this arrow, this cage, this arrow, this cage, this arrow, and this cage. And they were the first things I was playing with, and I was playing with those for quite a while. And the reason I liked them was the interaction of this arrow and this cage at the beginning I quite liked. So you can immediately look at it and you know, okay, there are 3 cells in this box that all must, they see each other. So the minimum these can be is 1, 2, 3. So this has to be a 6, 7, 8, or 9. But this is a 16 cage. So what can we make these arrows be at a maximum? Well, we can't make these we really can't make these any larger than 8, because if these were a 9, for example, then we would have to put a 0 there to make that a 9. So this can't be any larger than 8 in these 2 cells. So if this is an 8, this is an 8. If this is a 7, this is a 9. And if this is a 6, that would have to be a 10. So we're really limited with what we can put on these 2 cells. And because of that, this actually has to total either 7 or 8, which means this cannot be a 6 or a 7. So we've actually got an 8-9 pair in the box. This is also an 8-9 because this is a single cell arrow, and we can actually colour them. So these two have to be the same, and this becomes yellow. Now we can actually get a little bit more from that because, and this is just from these two arrows and this 16 cage, because if this is a 9, this will total 7, but this is going to be an 8, which means we've got 7 here and an 8 here, which means this will be a 1. But if this is an 8, this has to be 8, and this will be a 9, which means that has to be a 1. However we do this, that is a 1. The next thing we can look at is this 20 cage in 3. Now, if you look at 20 in 3, there are a few options for it. I'm just grabbing them. But all of them, absolutely every single option for 20 in 3 requires an 8 or a 9. One of them requires 8 and 9, which is not possible because this must be an 8 or a 9. So we've only got 3 options. And 479, 569 or 578. But we can't use the green 8-9 in this cage. So we must use the yellow 8-9 in this cage, and it can't go in those two cells. So this must be the 8-9, and it must be the yellow 8-9. Now we can turn around and say, okay, well, where does the yellow 8-9 go? In column 3. Because it can only go in one of those 3 cells. But if we were to put it here, then we could possibly make it an 8, but we can't put a 1 down here. And even if we could, we've already got an 8-9 pair, and this can't be anything higher than a 7. So we can't put it there. So one of those 2 cells has to be an 8 or a 9, and it has to be the yellow 8 or 9. And all of a sudden, we've got a lot of pressure. We've got an idea of what's going on. At this point, while setting the puzzle, and the other thing we've got, of course, is this must be a 6 or a 7 because, again, we've got 3 cells that see each other and it can't be 8 or 9. So this must have a 1 and a 2 on it, and it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. So these were some of the original ideas I came up with. And at this point, I spent about 7 hours, including with one of my testers, Sotec, bouncing ideas backwards and forwards, trying to make this work. And everything we did was bad. It was just absolutely horrible. And what I did is I ended up completely throwing everything I had away and starting on a brand new grid and putting in those cells. And this is where I think this puzzle went from being potentially horrible to being a very nice puzzle. And other people have said the same. Because with this, we've got another arrow trick. This is a completely separate break-in. So we're not going to look at any of this stuff for a while. We're going to just pay attention to this bottom corner. So again, we've got one of these arrows. 3 cells see each other. They have a minimum of 6, but I have to put at least 1 digit here. So the minimum I can put into here is 7. This must be 7, 8, or 9. This is the hardest bit, I think, on this puzzle to explain. So now we've got 7, 8, and 9 in here. Now, what is the minimum or the maximum we can put into these cells, pretty much? So these cannot be anything higher than a 7. Because if they were, then what would we put in those 2 cells? We have to put a minimum of 2 in here. So these cannot be higher than a 7. So that means these must be, oops, I'm in the wrong mode, 7, 8, or 9. Because if we were to put a 6 in here, these would need to be 8, and then we would have to put a 1, 0 in here. If we were to put a 5 in here, these would need to be 9, and we would need to put 0 in those 2 cells. It just doesn't work. So this is a 7, 8, 9 pair. Because this has a minimum value of 6, this has a maximum value of 3, and these can't hold a 6, because if I put a 6, 1, 2 in here, I've already hit 9 without including these values. So these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's just a standard arrow trick. But now I've got some questions to ask about those 2 cells. What happens if I make that an 8? And the reason this starts being tricky is because if you look at it, those two cells see both of those. So if this becomes an 8, these two cells now need to sum to 6. There are two ways of making 6. The ways of making 6 are either 1 and 5 or 2 and 4. They're the only possibilities. But if this is an 8, this becomes 6. I need to make this into something, this arrow now into something that includes 6 here and at least 2 more. And I can't make it 8. So this would be 8, this would be 9. So I've got 6 here, this would need to be 3. So these would need to be 1 and 2. So with a 1 and a 2 here, both of which are seen by these two cells, I need to make 6 without using a 1 or a 2. I can't use 1, 5. I can't use 2, 4. That cannot be an 8. Wrong mode again. So if I put an 8 there, I need to use a 1 and a 2 here, and I can't make 6. Doesn't work. Now I can ask exactly the same question about 8 down here. If I use, and this is a little bit even trickier to spot, if I put 8 here and I put 7 here, then 8 here, this becomes 7 because 14 minus 7, this becomes 7. 8, 7, these would need to total 1. It doesn't work. So the only option would be 8 and 9. If I do 8 and 9, these would have to be 5. And if these are 5 and these are 8, we're back to the same problem. These need to be 3. This is 1 and 2, and I need to make 5 again. And I can't make 5 when both of these cells see both 1 and 2. So this cannot be 8. So this is a 7-9 pair. Once this is locked in as a 7-9 pair, the magic actually happens. Because if this is a 9, these sum to 5, this is a 7, we've got 5, a 7 arrow with 5 in it, so these would have to sum to 2. The other option, sorry, I started to set, 7, these are 5, sorry, 9, these are 5, this is 7, these would be 2. I always get confused about which one I've done first. If I make this a 7, then these would sum to 7, this would be a 9, and I would have 9 minus 7, these would have to sum to 2. Whichever way I do it, these are both 1s. And we can take 1 out of there. And that is forced by just that cage and that arrow. And that took me a very long time to find. And then what I did is I grabbed this combination of arrow and cage and I put it back into the original grid and saw what happened. Because this cage becomes now really, really powerful. Because when you look at 13 in 3, there's quite a lot of options for 13 in 3. But what we've already done is we have forced there to be either an 8 or a 9 into it. So that gives us only a whole heap of options for it. But we've just forced 1 out of that cage. So before we did that, we had 3 options: 139, 148, or 238. So when you've got an 8 or a 9 forced into it by the logic we had with the 8s and 9s up here, this had 3 options. And I spent hours trying to figure out, okay, how do I restrict that cage? But as soon as I got this, which forced 1 out of this cage, this is absolutely forced to be 238. The 8 is not here because the 8 is in the yellow cells, and this is now a forced situation. And that was the initial break-in I came up with. After this, I really do not know what I did now. I just have no real clue. From this point on, I'm kind of solving blind. I do, however, know now that yellow is 8 and green is 9 because we've forced this to be 2, 3, 8. So what do I want to look at now? We know that 1 is in one of those two. Actually, we know more than that because these sum to 12. These sum to 12. I cannot put 1 into those cells because I'd have to put a 1 and an 11. I cannot put 1 into those cells. These cells here are not 1, and 1 must be there, so that is not a 1. So that is a 1, that is a 1. This is not the 1 because of the 1 we've got here. 1 is not here or here. It is in one of those 4. That's not helping me yet. What I do have, however, is from these 9s. 9 is not in there, and 9 is already in this cage, so it's not in any of those. So 9 is in one of those two. This actually places the 9 in box 3, because this 9 sees all of those, the 7-9 pair sees all of those 9s see those, and I cannot put 9 on an arrow that ends in a single cell. So this cell right here is a 9. 9 now has to go into one of those two, but it can't go onto the arrow because I'd have to put at least a 0 there. That becomes the 9. That puts 9 in one of those 3, which is not an ideal pencil mark, but I'm going to do it anyway. And as I said, at this point, I'm kind of solving blind. I do not remember exactly what I am supposed to be doing. I think it's this 19 cage. So I can't use 7 and 9. So if I use the next highest digits, which are 8, 6, and 5, that actually totals 19. So this is 8, 6, and 5, which takes 5 out of there. These are 1, 2, 3, and 4. This one is not 1. Is this limited? Having to sum to 12? Not sure. Yeah, at this point I am really solving blind. I do not remember. I did remember the break-in, and then after that it was just playing around and making it work. And I have solved... I've been involved with helping create an entire new puzzle hunt since I last looked at this. So 1... Oh, here we go. 1 must be in one of those, so 1 must be in one of those. That becomes a 1. So we already knew 1 was in one of those two. Okay, here's something. 8 can't be in those. 8 can't be in those. 8 can't be on the arrow because then these would have to be summed to 1, and that doesn't work. 8 isn't there. So 8 is in one of those two, which in this box forces 8 to be not here, not here, can't be on the arrow. 8 is in one of those two. So this is now limited to 6 or 7 because this is actually a 9-cell cage. I don't know if I'd mentioned that. So this is a 9-cell cage, and if you look, this arrow is completely contained inside the cage. So this is an extra region that contains this arrow completely. So it can't be an 8 or a 9 on this arrowhead. So this is a 6 or a 7. So this is basically like this arrow. So this must be 1, 2, 3, or 4, and it must have a 1 or a 2 on it. You cannot put a 1 in either of those two. So this becomes the 1, which knocks the 1 out of there, which puts the 1 into there. This is now a 2, 3, 4 triple in that box. 2 can't be there, but I don't know that that's a help yet. Oh, this can't be a 1 anymore, and we know there must be a 1 in that row. Is that all of the ones? That is all of the ones. Um, hmm. I hope people aren't too upset that I haven't memorized the exact path for my puzzle, but I try not to do exact paths for most of my puzzles. The break-in, as I said, was kind of designed, but apart from that, mm, um, so these are consecutive increasing. So this is like a mini consecutive dot thermo now that there's a 1 on the arrow, but there's still lots of options for it. Um, I am trying to remember. So the 20 cage, oh, hang on. Yeah, it's this 20 cage. Now that this is an 8, there is only one option for it. This is 578. So because this is 578, this must be a 6. So there is no 4 on here. This is a 1, 2, 3. So does that do anything? It makes that a 2, 3 pair, which makes that a 4, which is probably going to put pressure on this 16 cage. These need to sum to 7. I can't use 1, 6. I can use 2, 5. I can't use 3, 4. So this is a 2, 5 pair, which takes the 2 out of there and puts the 2 into there. This is a 3, 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a 7. This is now a known triple, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3, 4, and 6. There is no 3 here. This is a 2, 3, 4, 6 quadruple. So this is the 5, this is the 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a 7, 8 pair. This 7, 8 pair is fully contained in this 9 long cage. So this becomes a 6, which takes the 4 out of there. This becomes a 2, 3. I can take the 3 out of there. This is a 4, 6 pair. This becomes the 3, which takes the 3 out of there. Pardon me. Horrible, but had to be done. So this cage is now got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is a 4, 5 pair. Where does 2 go in this column? Well, it can't go in this box because I've got the 2. It can't go there because I've got a 2, 3 pair in the box, and it can't go in any of those. That's the 2, that's the 3, which makes that the 2 and that the 3. Which takes 3 out of there. I've now got a 2, 4 pair, which makes that the 3 and takes 3 out of there. Now that might do something on this 14 cage. So these need to sum to 11. So 7 and 4 or 9 and 2. There is no longer a 5 there. Does that force this arrow? Because if this is a 7, 3, 2, 1, yeah, 3, 2, 1, and 1 is still good enough. This 3 makes this the 8 and this the 3. I can probably get rid of all of this colouring now. So that is now forced. 3, 3. I put 3 in one of those two. This now has a minimum value of 4. Yeah, it's got a minimum value of 4, but I don't know what's going on with its maximum. Although this... Actually, let's look at this arrow. This can be 2, 3, 4. And because this has a minimum value of 4, I can't go, and it can't be a 5. So this is 2 or 4. So this is 4, 5, 6 or 7. Actually, I can take 8 out of there. This is 5, 6 or 7. Hang on, there's a 5, 6 in there. This is a 7. So what are these three? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. These are 2, 3, 4. Well, there's no 3 there. Wait a minute. Why did I take 3 out of there? That was a mistake. I think I just did it because I still had both cells highlighted. No, I had both cells highlighted, but I shouldn't. So that's the 3. This is a 2, 4 pair. So this is a 2. This is a 3. Trying to remember. It really is just down to the tricky Sudoku now. Yay. This is not a 6. This is not a 6. So this is the 6. This is the 5. This is the 7 because of the 7 that was there resolving it. So 2, 4, 5, and 8. So this is 4, 5, 8. The only place in the row now is that's a 2, that's a 4. So if that's a 4, this can no longer be 6 or 7 because I would blow the total. This is 8 or 9. Oh, and that 8 is making that the 9, which makes that the 5, which means that is not the 5. This is not the 9. 9 over here now is in one of those two. In fact, what do I have? I need 2, 4, 6, 9. Can't put 9 there, can't put 2 there. That was ridiculously unhelpful. Oh, actually, that 2 is looking over, making that 4 and making that 2. Bad at scanning. This is a quad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Well, I can't put 7 or 8 at the top, so that's a 5 or a 6. So I can take the 5 and the 6 out of there. That's a 7 and 8. That 7 makes that 8, and that 7. The 5, 6 makes that a 4, which makes that a 5, which makes that an 8, which makes that a 4, which makes that a 5. This is now a known triple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I don't put a 9 in the middle because of that one. Wow, that's it. Well done, Bremster, for setting something tricky. Can Bremster set a puzzle so tricky even he can't solve it? The answer to this is frequently yes. 5 and 6, so that becomes the 5, that becomes the 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 3 and 9. This 3 makes that the 9 and that the 3. The 9 comes out of there. This is a 7, 8 pair. This becomes the 9. This is now a 7, 8 to complete the column. This is actually a known pair. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is 3, 6. So this is 3. This is 6. This is not 3. We take 6 out of there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, and 8. I do remember making this quite a tricky to resolve little pair, but wow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 5, 6, and 8. Well, this is not the 8, so I've now got a 5, 6 pair. This is the 8, which means that is not the 8. It's probably this arrow, which I've been ignoring for too long. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Well, that can't be the 7 and that can't be the 4. That can't be the 6, so that can't be the 5 because these do have to be sequential. If this was 4, 5, okay. If this was 6, 7, what is the simple pointing thing I am missing? There will be one because it's me. Where does 8? No, that's not an 8. Where does 7 go in that row? That can't be a 7. That can't be a 7. That can't be a 7 because of the arrow. That can't be a 7. That is a 7. That is a 4. I take 4 out of all of those. That's 7. Yeah. That's an 8. So 4, 5, 7, and 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I can't do 7 or 9. So that's a 4, 5. So this is 2 or 6. What have I missed? Oh, that's a 7. That's an 8. That's a 7. That's an 8. There'll be something stupid. It always is. This is a 2, 4, 6 triple. That's a 5. That's a 4. That's a 2. That's a 6. That takes 6 out of those, takes the 2 out of there. That's a 4, 6, which makes that the 9, which makes that the 7, which I had from the arrow. I think I may have just got that, which makes that the 2. The 7 makes that the 5, which makes that the 7. 1 plus 4 is 5, which makes that the 6. The 4 looks up making that the 6 and that the 4, and the 5 looks up making that the 6 and that the 5, and that is how you do stage directions. So I designed this not to be ridiculously easy. That break-in, I wanted there to be 2 tricks that you had to find. So you had to kind of find the pressure on the 8s and 9s, and then you had to kind of figure out the trick with this. And you could do it just by doing eliminations, trying to sort of see what did and didn't work. And then after that, it was just some sort of arrow pressure and cage pressure to figure it all out. I was kind of happy with that as a difficulty. I thought it was kind of an easy 4 in difficulty, rating from 1 to 5, which I thought was appropriate for sort of a single puzzle hunt. Some people said they cracked it in 15 minutes, and I think they're crazy. I did not, when I first tested this, do it that fast. I was nowhere near close. It took me hours and hours and hours and hours to set it, and there were many versions of this that were just bad puzzles. I mean, they're just amazing solvers, and hats off to those people. Like, I think they are incredible. And other people said it took them hours. One person said it took them pretty much an entire day. They sat down at breakfast and they finished it just before dinner. And it humbles me to think that people wanted to spend so long on one of my puzzles. So thank you very much. I hope that this video showed you what I was both thinking when I set the puzzle and sort of the little tricks that I tried to use to make sort of the combination of the 2 ideas I had work together, and then how it all the extra clues just came in to make it all solve in an interesting way. Most of the time, what us setters are doing is just trying different things and seeing if they give us interesting interactions. Sometimes we sit down with an idea and sort of go, I'm going to try and make this work. Sometimes inspiration just happens. This one was a lot of just brute force and ignorance on my part. Thank you very much for watching. I really do hope that people want to jump into the next puzzle hunt. There's been a lot of amazing setters who've put many hours of work into the puzzles. And now I've got to write a story that I'm going to try and deliberately keep bad, because if I try and make a really good story for it, people will find reasons to pick bad, horrible holes in it. But if I just make it a really bad story, then people will just find it funny, and that's always fun. So please, if you haven't seen it before, watch the trailer. And I will see you for my next puzzle hunt. And have a good day, everyone. Good luck with your solving.